So Mulan was meant to originally come out back in March of 2020. Because of COVID, it got pushed back with no date in sight. They decided then to put it on Disney Plus for premiere access in September. Didn't decide to pay for that. Instead of paying the €30 for that, I decided to pay the €30 for the Blu-ray. Bought the Blu-ray. Blu-ray came in last month. Had no interest whatsoever in buying it or watching it. Watched it last night, and here are my thoughts. So when the movie came in the post, I didn't have any interest because I heard bad things. I just didn't really want to watch it. But when I did actually get around to watching it, luckily I hadn't heard anything. Even though the movie came out in September and it's now December, I went 3 months without getting anything spoiled for me, hearing no negative or positive thoughts on this movie whatsoever. I don't know how I lasted this long, but I somehow lasted that long without hearing anything. So I went into this movie not really knowing what to expect, not knowing if it was good or bad, but straight away out of the bat, we see a younger version of Mulan, and then she gets into some scenario where she could have almost killed herself, but then these chi powers come in and save her, and that immediately showed me that, okay, I'm not sure where this movie's going to go. And the idea of her having these chi powers, I think, is a horrible, horrible idea. In the first movie, not the first movie, the original animated movie, Mulan is just an ordinary person who then gets training and becomes such a magnificent and strong warrior. In this movie, she's got chi powers, so she was always destined to become a great character, a great hero, or whatever. But in this movie, the fact that she was always destined, it doesn't really make you you don't feel for her character, you don't really care about her journey because you know she's gonna have to go greatness, and it just feels like a kind of a cop out, the fact that they don't really show her go on some massive journey. Now you do see her go through a lot of the training, you still see the training sequences, but because of the chi and because of a lot of the stuff in the final battle relies on the fact that she has chi, and the fact that if she didn't have her chi powers, which are essentially kind of superheroes in this world, but if she didn't have this, she wouldn't have been able to do. I just kind of, that really made me not like the character as much for that very reason as well. The music not being in this movie is massively wasted. Like, you hear the reflection, the tune is played throughout the song. I don't think the Matchmaker song was played. The whole Matchmaker scene was very boring. But the music not being in this movie, I found it to be a bit of a waste, and I hope Disney doesn't take that from this movie and goes, okay, we should keep our music within these live action remakes, because that's like one of the great things about the animated movies is the music. Mulan has got some fantastic, like, I'll Make a Man Out of You, Reflection is just absolutely beautiful songs. So many fantastic songs in this movie, and the fact that for the remake they decided not to put any of them in, I just kind of found that to be a bit of a letdown. The side characters in this movie, none of them stood out to me. None of them. Like, they were all just kind of blended into one character because none of them had any kind of character traits that made them stand out. Now, bear in mind, in the original one, none of them really did. Of course, you have the love interest, and you've got her three kind of bumbling idiot friends, and they stand out, one, because of their appearances are also different, but also because they are kind of, in a way, the comic relief for the movie, so you kind of remember them a bit more. But in this movie, since they're all, you can't animate someone to be ridiculous like they were in the anime movie, they all just look like normal people. And every now and again someone would say a joke from them, but just none of the jokes landed for me. Not having Mushu in this movie, I also found was a massively disappointment, and it felt like something was missing throughout the whole movie. They kind of put a phoenix in there that would just fly around every now and again, and I just thought putting a phoenix in there instead of Mushu was a complete waste of opportunity. It felt for me like just taking any random character, any kind of random important character out of a Disney movie and just putting some random bird in there. It'd be like taking Genie out of Aladdin, or even, it's not really on that scale, imagine taking Olaf out of Frozen, because Mushu was the comic relief in a way of the first, or the original Mulan. So it'd be like taking the comic relief out of Frozen. It would just feel like something is off, and that's pretty much what they did for this movie. But the actress who plays Mulan, I don't actually know her name, but she was very bland, very boring, and I could not get interested or intrigued or nothing. I was not intrigued at all with her character. Didn't care whatsoever about the character of Mulan. She was just bland, boring, little to no emotion on her face. I get that she was trying to hide that she's a woman. Bear in mind, her hiding that she's a woman was absolutely terrible. She didn't even actually, one massive thing that I thought was bad, the Reflection song, one of the most impactful scenes in the animated movie, is when she cuts her hair and decides to go out. But in this movie, they skip over the whole scene, and then we just see her with the armor and she leaves. I thought that was such a massive waste of opportunity to show that amazing, amazing scene in the animated movie when she decides that she is going to step up and take her father's place. In this movie, they completely just skip over that, and I just really didn't like that as well. Some of the positives for this movie is it looks good in parts, but other than that, I don't really have many positives for this movie. The villains are, for some reason, the villains are even more forgettable in this movie than they were in the animated version. And the animated version, the villains were forgettable enough as it was in that. The villain, the male villain in this movie looks similar enough to the animated version. He's just not as animated looking, so of course he can't really do anything there. You've got this witch who I just didn't like. She didn't really work. She didn't really go with the story at all. She just felt like she was shoehorned in there. For me, wasn't a fan of it as well. Mulan has a sister for some odd reason, and I don't know. I feel like I'm just kind of nitpicking at this movie, but I really did not like this movie. I can't believe I actually bought the 4K Steelbook. I wish I just waited and then watched it on Disney Plus, because I have no interest in ever watching this movie again. I found this movie to be boring as fuck. I literally was watching it last night, and I think I said, you know what, I'd rather go to bed, so I paused it and then came back and watched the last hour of it this morning, because this movie just bored me to sleep. I can't believe it. This movie actually bored me to sleep. Now, bear in mind, I wasn't really that anticipating this movie. I was like, oh yeah, Mulan, okay, yeah, but when it got postponed, I didn't really care. I was going to go see it regardless. I was always going to see it, but I was never like over the moon excited to see this movie. But this movie was a letdown to go off. Just going off other animated movies, Disney live action movies. Like, you look at Aladdin, you look at Dumbo and Lion King, all those movies from last year. I love Aladdin. Lion King and Dumbo, I'd even rather watch them over Mulan, because I feel like at least they're fun. I just didn't find this movie fun. And of course, it is a war. You can't expect to have as much fun in this movie than you would in, say, Dumbo or The Lion King. But I just thought it was bland and boring and just extremely forgettable. And honestly, I think if I ever want to watch Mulan again, even that I don't even really watch Mulan that often. I think I probably watch it every 2-3 years. But if I'm going to watch Mulan, I'm 100% going to go for this one. And I know I always say that about all these Disney live action movies, except for like Aladdin, Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, the ones that stand out to me. But this one, this one over here, I just think it's ridiculously forgettable, bland, and I have no interest in ever watching Mulan 2020 ever again. But let me know your thoughts on Mulan 2020 in the comment section down below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you think it's better than the animated version? I don't know how you could, but let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section down below. I'm going to be doing an updated ranking of the Disney live action movies, so if you want to hear my thoughts on where this ranks with all other 13, I think it is, live action remakes, make sure you click that subscribe button. You can come back when I do my ranking. It should be in the next week or so. So if you want to hear my ranking of all of the Disney live action movies, click that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.